are made for service, to care for each other. We are made to love each sister and brother with love that will live through sorrow and pain, a love that will never die with strain. God sent His Son to show us the way, one who shared His love every minute of the day, one who gave His life that we might live, and His Spirit to help us through the years.
Life can be so lonely when nobody cares. Life can be so empty when nobody shares. But if we give ourselves both time and again, the happiness of Christ will live within.
We are made for service, to care for each other.
Good morning. Do we have a feedback? Good morning, listeners and viewers. So we begin. Good morning.
A love that will never die with strain. A love that will never die with strain.
This morning to be able to speak with a sister, a stalwart, one who has given her life in the service of the church, and in particular, Caritas Antilles. Some of you may have heard about it, but today we will be enlightened by our guest, Mrs. Marcia Haywood. I met her for the first time in this forum, but I'm sure we will meet again in person. So we thank you, Mrs. Haywood, for taking the time off to be with us today to share with us as the Director of Caritas Antilles. It's a pleasure to meet you, and I am delighted to be able to speak with you, and I'm sure all our listeners and viewers are looking forward to what you have to say, because this is really the heart of the gospel, to reach out to the poor. As you said, the church's best secret, social teachings of the church. And I invite all of you to listen and to be able to post your comments as you would want to respond to what our guest, Mrs. Marcia Haywood, would share with us today. So welcome to this very special program.
Thank you. It's a pleasure and an honor to actually be invited to this forum and to be able to share with all our listeners and viewers the essential part of Caritas, what it is all about, what drives us, and how everyone will find out at the end of this discussion or this conversation how they are already Caritas in the world that we live in.
Wonderful. Now, as we were speaking before the program, I've learned that you've been working with Caritas for over 20 years. Can you just share with us a bit of that initial entry into Caritas? What drove you there, and how has it been for you during that period?
Yeah, that is correct. In fact, I was very involved in youth ministry all my life, and I'm very involved in church activities. I was raised in the Catholic Church by a single mom who was very, I would say, strong in her faith. And I was employed at the time at the Venezuelan embassy and I have been praying for an opportunity to serve God in a greater capacity. I can remember it was one Wednesday morning, and the reading that I got from scripture was like, it said, a day is like 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is like a day. And I retorted to God, Lord, I've been praying for such a long time. Please don't make me wait 1,000 years. And that very day, at exactly 3 p.m., I received a call. It was from the late Cardinal Kelvin Felix, who was the then Archbishop of St. Lucia. And he said he had just come in from a Caritas encounter in Mexico and was praying at the Basilica of Our Lady of Guadalupe, and had been praying for someone to keep, Caritas like going in the Caribbean, in the Antilles, because I think a lot of the bishops had kind of pulled out because we were zoned in with Latin America and they did not speak Spanish, and the meetings were conducted in Spanish. And suddenly my name, he was praying to Our Lady, and my name flashed in his mind. He arrived in St. Lucia on an American Eagle flight, which used to land at 2:55, and called me at exactly 3 p.m. and asked me to come to a Caritas meeting, which was taking place that weekend, and just learn about us. Like, Caritas, what is that? I attended the workshop, and I was like, this is what my heart has been speaking to me, to an opportunity to serve the poor. And the rest, they say, is history. That is how I was able to join the Caritas family and the Caritas Confederation.
Great. So when you started, as you said, there was very little, and you had to be creative, you had to just be innovative, you just got to get it working. Tell us a bit of your entry and how you moved, with the spirit to be able to establish the structures and so on, to have what we have today as Caritas functional, based in St. Lucia. Tell us a bit of that, because it will be interesting for listeners and viewers to know that it was not just you just went into an office and everything was set for you and you took off.
Certainly. I went into an office and I was presented with a set of files in a manila folder. It had files on St. Vincent de Paul, basically talking about, I think it was Mr. Steve Solomon, who had previously in Trinidad and Tobago carried the mantle of Caritas under St. Vincent de Paul. And I read about, different initiatives and so on. That's all I had. I didn't have a computer, nothing else. And eventually I was invited by our Latin American counterparts to different training opportunities on Caritas to learn what Caritas is all about. And I met persons there, and I put forward the Antilles and how we could really promote Caritas in the church, in the Catholic Church, as a social action agency of the Catholic Church. I should say Caritas, to the viewers and listeners, Caritas is Latin for love. And Caritas shares the mission of the Catholic Church to serve the poor and to promote charity and justice throughout the world. So basically, Caritas shares the mission of the Catholic Church to serve the poor and to promote charity and justice in all contexts. So I learned about Caritas and I began to invite. Eventually, I was able to garner the support of the Episcopal Conference to get to appoint coordinators, and at least we started with the province of Castries with the hope to expand to the rest of the Antilles Episcopal Conference, and that is what we have worked towards, providing training, working with volunteers, ensuring that within the parishes a Caritas team is formed to really take care of the needs of the poor and vulnerable. As Jesus said, the poor will always remain with us, and it's our duty and obligation to respond to the needs of the poor. So that is how the initial entry looked at. I had to be creative, innovative, and always look with an optimistic view at how we could move forward.
Wonderful. Congratulations. Because the Lord really, and Our Lady certainly has been accompanying you in this work that you are doing. Now, let's get into Caritas Antilles. For some persons in Grenada and other parts, they would hear, Caritas or YAC and things. But Caritas Antilles, tell us a bit of its expansion, really its mission, its vision, why what makes it distinct from other organizations?
Caritas Antilles is really the expression of the Antilles Episcopal Conference to promote charity and justice in the region. And so we represent the Antilles Episcopal Conference, who we have bishops in each of the 19 territories, or archbishops, who represent that. And we work with the church to promote justice and charity, especially with a preferential option for the poor. So the various diocesan caritases, like Caritas Grenada, it's a diocesan caritas, are members of Caritas Antilles. And we work hand in hand together to do just that in accordance with the local dioceses, I would say, expressions for how they would want to develop their ministry to the poor. Caritas works with all. So, for example, I remember when I just started out, St. Vincent de Paul, that was an area that was very delicate because they felt some people did not understand that St. Vincent de Paul espouses the same Catholic social teaching principles. And in fact, in 2008, the then Pope Benedict convened a special, I would say, retreat for all charity workers, Caritas workers, which included all St. Vincent de Paul and other workers of the church. I remember the papal preacher, Father Raniero Cantalamessa, who conducted the retreat. And we all, as brothers and sisters in service to the poor, were there sharing experiences, learning together. So it's really encompassing, Caritas encompasses the integral human development of every human being and advocates on causes of poverty and violence. So basically, that is how Caritas Antilles espouses all. So, for example, if you have a Caritas in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Caritas St. Vincent and the Grenadines as a diocese, and we support and work with them. We provide accompaniment to ensure that they have the support needed to elaborate on the programs that they have for the poor. And as in the case of the response to Hurricane Beryl, ensure that there is a comprehensive response as well.
Wonderful. Now, this is very interesting because, there is the feel that sometimes, where is the church? What is the church doing? How is the church responding? I guess you don't have a banner and all of that up, but you are there integrated in the zones, where there's disaster and where there's a need. As you said, you walk in the gaps. Share with us a bit on that aspect of your integration into various countries when there is a need.
So in some countries where there is a Caritas presence, like I would say like Caritas Grenada, it's fortunate because they've already been establishing themselves and preparing not only for, I would say, disasters, but general humanitarian response. I'm aware that the Diocese of St. George's in Grenada has been partners with, for example, Food for the Poor for a number of years. And Food for the Poor is one of our greatest collaborators in ensuring that there are items that are pre-positioned. That means they are there before you have an event like Hurricane Beryl, or just that people are in need generally and they're able to provide some sort of relief to those persons who are affected. So basically, these organizations should be working through the parishes, the parish structure, to respond to the poor. So we work with the grassroots. So, for example, in St. Lucia, we do have Caritas parish teams, and these persons go to visit the poor, the sick. We also have what we call a distribution program, which is the same receipt of relief supplies from Food for the Poor, where we are able to provide services to the schools, to the prisons, to the hospitals. We work in collaboration with the governmental departments that work with the poor, like in our case, it's the Ministry of Equity. And so we support their programs. We provide food, school supplies, sometimes medical supplies to the hospitals and so on, to take care of those who do not have the means to purchase medication or to purchase, I would say, aids for those with disabilities and things like that. So it's quite extensive in terms of the kind of support that we need. In the case of Caritas, we do have one of our projects, because we have had several projects, which is the Youth Emergency Action Committees. And that is funded by USAID, the Bureau of Humanitarian Assistance, or just shortened to say BHA. In fact, it is one of the signature projects in the Caribbean region for USAID BHA. which is we started off in Jamaica with the St. Patrick Rangers in 2009. We actually came on board in 2011, where we work with youth at risk. So remember, it's in the gaps. Youth at risk who maybe don't formally belong to any grouping. And we provide them with core skills in first aid, CPR. Some other areas are shelter management, IDA or initial damage assessment, DANA or damage and needs assessment, inventory control, all different areas. And another critical area, it's called leadership and life skills. And that's where we can inject the CST and help people understand that we always maintain the dignity of the human person. And this model has been so successful that we've been able most recently to expand to the Diocese of Georgetown, Guyana this year. So in fact, the program was initially scheduled to be 1 year, and that's from 2011. We are in 2024, and we got an additional 3 years to expand. And these are the very same young people who, instead of being at risk and being on the block and more susceptible to, the scourges of society, are now literally saving lives. Because these are the very young people who have been responding to Hurricane Beryl in Carriacou, in Petite Martinique, on the mainland that has been affected, in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, because we have deployed young people, and we're about to deploy a second set of young people to St. Vincent, and also in Jamaica. So we are seeing that this model has actually been very, very successful.
Yes. Wonderful. Now, you said that Caritas Antilles is there before, during, and after. No, we do not just wait for something to happen, but I gather from you that you are working behind the scenes, positioning yourself and positioning your various persons to be able to respond. Speak to us of this, because I think this is very interesting that we are there before, during, after. I think this is very interesting. Can you expand on this for us?
Definitely. And I would say the before, during, and after any emergency. So because we have been preparing ourselves, and I can tell you in the month of June, we had what is called our annual regional simulation, shortened to say CIMEX, where several of our partners, including the Living Water community from Trinidad and Tobago, participated. And that CIMEX is basically to test our emergency deployment plans, ensure that they're functioning ahead of the hurricane season. And we're not only planning for hurricane, we're planning for any possible emergency event, man-made or natural, naturally generated. So because any emergencies can come in any form or fashion. So we practiced for our CIMEX, we reviewed our plans. We did that with the teams that were on the ground in Grenada, with virtual participation by the teams around the region. And Beryl came just a couple of days later. So we were very prepared. In addition to that, we have what is called pre-positioned relief supplies. In Grenada, in Jamaica, in Dominica, in St. Lucia, and St. Lucia with a view to sharing with any other affected partner. So we had been working on that in the years prior. So when Beryl hit, our team was able to respond almost immediately. And I say almost because the only other impeding factor would be transportation from the mainland to the affected territories, which was quick time with the support of NADMA. We also collaborate with the National Emergency Management Agencies in country, including the regional CDMA mechanism. And so that is important to note. We don't just work in a vacuum. We work with the Red Cross and any other responding agency in country, and regionally as well. So we were able to respond almost immediately with the pre-positioned items to the affected populations on the mainland and in Carriacou and Petite Martinique, and additionally in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and also in Jamaica with our partners, St. Patrick Rangers.
Wow. No, you sound like you're on top of things. It's like the coordination is fantastic. If an event has taken place here or in some other part, it comes straight to you. You are quite aware of what is happening within the region. So it means that you have a very organized system of gathering information, and the connections seem to be on point, which is a plus. Yes.
Yes. So actually, you may recall I said when I started off as one person with nothing, I had to devise a way to be able to reach, to go through the region and to be able to develop that structure. And so with the YACs and the project managers, we have frequent meetings, periodic meetings, where we share experiences. We have a regional platform where we support each other, we learn from each other, and we have exchanges as well. And so that information is shared. One thing that really works well, I delegate, because I can't do everything. So I trust my team, and remember, we also have volunteers. So I trust my team, and the team basically shares. We have very open communication, fluid communication, and we participate with our stakeholders in countries. So I'll just give an example in St. Lucia, and it's replicated throughout the region. We collaborate with our NEMO, National Emergency Management Office, which in your case is NADMA. We collaborated with the fire service organizations. If you have St. John's Ambulance or Association, the Red Cross, key stakeholders, and we ensure that wherever they are not working, then that is where we will work in the gaps. We receive training on an ongoing basis. We also collaborate very well with the USAID, BHA, or Bureau for Humanitarian Assistance, country representative. I think in your case, it's Mr. Sylvan McIntyre.
Yes.
And we have different country reps throughout the region. They are always aware of what we do. They support us. They accompany us. They provide us with training. We have good communication. So it's a network that is built with our Catholic agencies, even though we respond to everyone, because Caritas responds to persons irrespective of race, ethnicity, or creed. So we respond to the human person, and we focus on integral human development to all those who are in need, especially the poor.
Wow, so it's very broad and very extensive. And I guess the people who are called, you do have space for volunteers if people would like to be part of this this movement of love, this Caritas, that reaches, because people ask, where is the church? Where is the church in all that is happening? And I love the conversation we had previously that you said, well, the church is here because Marcia is here, and other persons who are Catholic are there. But sometimes people want to see you as a united body together. Speak to us of the responsibility, really, that we all have to extend this Caritas wherever we are, so that we can be enlightened on the fact that the church is you, and the church is we. I mean, we who are there, we are the church. Can you emphasize how important this is, for the advancement of our faith?
Each one of us has been baptized as priest, prophet, and king. And accordingly, each one of us is called or charged with the obligation and responsibility to respond to our brother or sister in need. In fact, Jesus tells us the poor will always remain with us. And I've often, pondered on this line. Why? Because we are always challenged to love, and to love more and more each day. To love especially the poor, and to be able to help them, especially in the time of need. And so each one of us is Caritas. Why? Because each one of us is love, and God is love. So when people ask that question, it's because there's not been an introspection of what I can bring to the table. And you mentioned about volunteers. We always have room. There's room at the table for everyone. There is a role for everyone to perform in God's kingdom. And so we welcome volunteers, because without the volunteers, we wouldn't be able to achieve what we have achieved. I sent only young volunteers to St. Vincent. They were accompanied by our partners, Catholic Relief Services, which is Caritas USA, specialists in specific areas who were able to support them, but youth. And it is amazing to see youth giving back to society. It's the same youth that we're saying, they're committing crime, or they're, delinquent. These are the same young people who are fully trained They go in there, they can
And ready to
support
go.
medical services. They also provide their services to bring relief, always respecting the human dignity. And it would be remiss of me not to add, within Caritas and within the Caritas Internationalis Confederation of Catholic Charities, which is the global network of Caritas organizations, there is what is called the management standards. So that all of our organizations must comply with international management standards in accountability, in finance, and I want to say more specifically in what is called protection against sexual exploitation and abuse. So including our volunteers, all the employees must go through training in protection against sexual exploitation and abuse and sign our code of conduct. Without that, none of them would be able to respond to the emergency, so that wherever we go, we do no harm. And we also have mechanisms within Caritas, within the church, to report any complaints, any digression from our code of conduct, because all aid that we give is free. No favors. No favors must be granted. And including myself, I'm the first one who is accountable, as well as all of the volunteers. We, when we recruit staff, we go for a safe recruitment checklist. We go through a hiring process, which must be vetted. They must comply with all of the checklists and receive training. We must receive a certificate of character from the police or police record. So there are certain things that we must check to ensure that our volunteers, our staff, and even our service providers must subscribe to. So for example, we have a transport driver taking our young people to the harbor to go on a boat to Carriacou. That driver must subscribe to our code of conduct as well. Okay, so it's something that is it's a movement. There are lots of other areas that the ordinary person may not see, but needs to know about in terms of visibility. So it's not just getting any young person or volunteer or people with records to go and provide assistance to the community. We want to know that when we provide assistance to you, it's being done in a safe manner, a do no harm manner, and that we subscribe to an international confederation of policy and ways that direct our conduct.
So in other words, you're called to live your faith in reality, wherever you are. So that's, again, a very powerful witness that we are called to bear in these situations and circumstances. I'm very happy you say so, because parents sometimes are very concerned even to allow their children to be part of church organizations and, agencies like that. But there you are sort of giving us the guarantee that everything is done that is possible to make sure that your children are safe if they sign up to, because there are checks and balances. So that's fantastic. And that's really fantastic. So at this time, listeners and viewers, in case you've just joined us, we're speaking there with Mrs. Marcia Haywood, and she is the Director of Caritas Antilles, which is located in St. Lucia. We are going to take a short break, and when we come back, we will go straight to Carriacou and Petit Martinique in terms of the tangible effect of Caritas Antilles and their work there and their projection for the future of the building back the lives of our people. So we take a short break at this time.
Made for service, to care for each other. We are made to love each sister and brother with love that will live through sorrow and pain, a love that will never die with strain. God sent His Son to show us the way, one who shared His love every minute of the day, one who gave His life that we might live, and His Spirit to help us through the years.
Life can be so lonely when nobody cares. Life can be so empty when nobody shares. But if we give ourselves both time and again, the happiness of Christ will live within.
We are made for service, to care for each other. We are made to love each sister and brother with love that will live through sorrow and pain, a love that will never die with strain. A love that will never die with strain. A love that will never die with strain.
Welcome back, listeners and viewers, as we continue to speak with the Director of Caritas Antilles, Mrs. Marcia Haywood. As you see, she is so energetic and passionate about what she's doing, and really shares it. It's just flowing so freely that I think the waters and the invitation is open for those who are willing to be part of this wonderful movement of love, Caritas. So we're going to move now into the intervention in times of disaster and focus it on Grenada. We did have our terrible experience of Hurricane Ivan, and a year later we had Emily. We were so hard hit that we look on Carriacou now and see that Carriacou has gotten the reverse because they were not as affected as we were on the mainland. How did Caritas Antilles intervene in these situations to provide the tangible assistance that the persons affected needed?
So back after following Hurricanes Ivan and Emily, Caritas Antilles, of course, as I mentioned, we were there before, during, and after. We were already working with the Diocese of St. George's, Grenada, as Caritas Grenada. And so we were on the ground with the team that the church had put forward at the time, working with the best ways to respond. We responded by building over 60 homes with the support of the Caritas Internationalis Confederation, and that is other members of Caritas, like Caritas USA, Catholic Relief Services, Caritas Japan. We were fully funded by the Confederation. I can remember Caritas Germany, Caritas Spain contributed. So all the Catholic brothers and sisters around the world contributed to Hurricanes Ivan and Emily. We were able to not only build the 60 homes for affected persons, we were able to also have what we call psychosocial support, some trauma counseling, in collaboration, of course, with the Franciscan Institute. And we were also able to help with the livelihoods part of it. We were able to provide some goats to households who had lost their livestock, to be able to generate food, for themselves and for their families. And we also provided seeds, an agricultural component, non-GMO seeds, to kind of, bring back the cash crop so people could eat.
Yes.
Remember, everything was destroyed back then. So as persons can listen to what I've been saying, we've been around for quite some time. And we have no plans to exit, because this is what the church does. This is the church's response to persons in need. And this is an ongoing matter, because we all have to be involved in this process.
Yeah, we're not thinking of you. We're not going to be exiting at all. As long as there is life, we keep working until the day. No, so we are grateful for your assistance. And as I said, it's a collaborative effort. You work along with so many agencies, because it looks like if, as you said, you're working the gap. So you work with statistics, you work with evaluations, you work with assessments, so that at least you know how you are responding without duplicating the efforts of other agencies, of course. Yes.
Particularly so. So, for example, this latest intervention, we've had the information has been difficult to come by because of the nature of the impact. You know, and you don't want to give households fatigue in responding to assessments. So we are really collaborating. I think the government ministries have been very working very well with Caritas in providing information, in providing the results of the assessments, which will inform what we will do and what we continue to do. So initially, in the response, like everyone else, because there was a need for tarpaulins, solar lights, there's no electricity, and hygiene kits, people need soap and so on. Caritas Grenada, you know, was able to respond with over close to 200 hygiene kits and 150 disaster kits to the affected population. They also provided 212 or more shelter kits, which had the tops, the ropes, the nails, and so on, to be able to fit the tops onto the homes that had been impacted. Also, Caritas Grenada was one of the first set of volunteers to accompany NADMA. Remember, I said they're trained. Our volunteers are trained. So, of course, NADMA has a cadre of young people trained in all what they need. So all they had to do was take them to Caracue. They're still based there, you know, with breaks, of course, for debriefing, etc., and to conduct assessments and to support NADMA in their efforts. They've also been collaborating with Samaritan's Purse for the distribution component of it, of the different things. Now, that is switching to early recovery, because, you know, persons are getting food, they're getting assistance as much as possible. We want to ensure that no one is left in the gaps or left behind. So we'll continue to collaborate with the information we're getting. But our work is informed by market analyses. We have to ensure that the markets are stimulated and that they have the items that will be required for the rebuilding process, because that will be the next stage for Grenada and her dependencies. So basically, we have spoken with the Confederation, that is the Caritas Internationalis Confederation, and we will be launching an emergency appeal on behalf of Grenada, Caritas Grenada. It will be a two-pronged approach. Whilst we can, in fact, we have several approaches. I'm giving you one, the emergency appeal. We have a rapid response that is really looking at replenishing all of the items that were distributed to affected populations, because we are very early in the hurricane season. We don't know what next will come.
Yes.
We don't know what other type of disaster will occur. We have Kikim Jenny, we have other threats. So we have to replenish what we have distributed. So we have a rapid response fund from the U.S. government, ELMA. There's a fund called ELMA, which will replenish our prepositioned items. Also, Food for the Poor, our partners, they are actively replenishing the stock that we have used, the hygiene kits and other items that they have blessed us with to work with in Grenada. Apart from that, the emergency appeal will look at two main areas, and that is subsequent to the assessments and analysis that we have conducted based on the information we have received from the government ministry and other coordinating agencies, because we are part of the international coordinating cluster, the NGOs, all the different ones that are there. We are aware. We attend the WASH meetings, that's water and sanitation hygiene. We have the OCHA, the UN agencies, Samaritan's Purse, etc. So based on that, our response will look at two main areas. One is psychosocial support. And we're going to support our very own, the Franciscan Institute, Catholic Institute, which has already been working in this area for many years. They're well trained and well able, but we need to augment what they do. So this emergency appeal will support reaching out to many more vulnerable persons in psychosocial support, because that's an area we tend to overlook. But I can tell you, after having responded to Hurricanes Maria and Irma in Dominica in 2017, in 2024, there are still persons who are traumatized by weather events. And after having responded to Hurricane Dorian in the Bahamas in 2019 and established the Grand Bahama Resilience Center, which provides psychosocial support, there are still persons who are traumatized. So we take this very seriously, and this is one area that we are going to look at in Grenada's response. And the other area would be to provide multi-purpose cash assistance to affected households. We might do about 600 households, and you have your average household might have about 4 persons or so. depends. So we will be doing that to provide shelter, non-food items, so ways that they can help to rebuild their spaces and their homes in collaboration with the existing government ministry, because we cannot do it outside. So whatever the government plans to do in the recovery building process, I can tell you, for example, when we were responding to Dominica, some donors had shipped to us zinc, galvanized sheets for Dominica. But then the Prime Minister there said, no, we're going to build back better. So we're going to use a certain grade, which will be more hurricane resistant. So we couldn't send the zinc the donors had sent. We had to comply with the government's, requirements. So it will be the same fashion with Grenada. Whatever the government decides, they will be of international fair standards quality for responding to a hurricane recovery process. So these are the areas. In addition to that, we will be prepositioning more items so that Grenada can be even more ready when another emergency event occurs.
Because you said this hurricane took us almost by surprise. I mean, the beginning, the 1st of July, this is unheard of. And Carriacou and Petit Martinique being so virgin sheltered, would have thought that it would have affected Beryl just went in search of these places and devastated it in such a way. I think I remember the Prime Minister of Dominica, when that hurricane hit Dominica, it was so hard for him that he could not hold back the tears because and I would imagine, as you said, the psychosocial support is extremely important because Carriacou is part of Grenada, but they have their own unique quality and culture and closeness in family and their own, they're just a very unique people, and Petit Martinique as well. So it is very difficult because some of the older people, they didn't want to move. And you could understand why some of them didn't want to move, because it's like, you've lived here all your life, and to readjust or to adjust somewhere else is not easy. So that aspect of psychosocial support, I really would like to applaud this, because I think it is extremely important to assist persons to be able to cope and to be able to deal with their situation, which is going to be a long haul. For some, it's not going to be as easy to recover, really. So I'm grateful that you mentioned that as part of the service that you render to disaster hit countries. Yes?
And I must say, this is, brothers and sisters, this is the Catholic Church's response, because we care, we love, we save lives, we want to relieve suffering and help rebuild livelihoods and communities in the longer term. So this is the Church's face of charity, of love to all those who have been affected, irrespective of their ethnicity, race, or creed. This is really why the Church, this is an innovative area for the Church, psychosocial support. It's not an area that has been delved into before, because it was a taboo area, especially in the Caribbean region. So this is an area that we believe we need to lend our support to the Franciscan Institute and help them to gain further ground and support. You have the older persons who are transferred from Carriacou onto the mainland. They will need, and they are targets in our response, they will need that support as well. So we will collaborate with the respective ministry and the Franciscan Institute to provide that service as well.
Wow, this is so deep, huh? And so much. So let's take a break, listeners and viewers. In case you've just joined us, we have the privilege and the honor of speaking with the coordinator of Caritas Antilles. This is Marcia Haywood, located in St. Lucia. And we are very, very grateful for the information that she is giving to us. And it's not just information, but the witness that the Church bears, not only in this time, as she said before, a disaster, during, and after. And so we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to give Mrs. Haywood, if there's any more information that you'd like to leave with us, we'll give you an opportunity to share with us a little further on the work of this tremendous, profound institution of Caritas Antilles. We take a short break now.
With love that will live through sorrow and sent his Son to show us the way. One who shared his love every minute of the day. One who gave his life that we might live, and his Spirit to help us through the years.
Life can be so lonely when nobody cares. Life can be so empty when nobody shares. But if we give ourselves both time and again, the happiness of Christ will live within.
We are made for service, to care for each other. We are made to love each sister and brother with love that will live through sorrow and pain, a love that will never die with strain. A love that will never die with strain. A love that will never die with strain.
Welcome back, listeners and viewers, to this very, very special program today with Mrs. Marcia Haywood, the Director of Caritas Antilles, located in St. Lucia. We shared so much and in such depth on the work of this wonderful, gifted face, I would put it, of the Catholic Church, Caritas Antilles. But certainly, there's a cost factor, and we know the economy is affected in many ways. I know, I'm sure you have been working in areas like Gaza and all the other, so your funds could be depleted and your resources and so on. But however, there is still that opportunity that we have to be able to have some that is put aside to help. So share with us some statistics, if you wish, on the cost so far, what is projected as to the islands of Carriacou and Petit Martinique.
Yes, aware of the global context of disasters these days in Ukraine, in Gaza, and very close to us in Haiti, and even in Venezuela.
Yes.
We have several, crises happening in terms of the people, etc. Our initial contribution to the recovery process in Grenada will be in the region of $2 million US and counting. So that is a lot of funds to be able to inject, but you can only reach so many because, in our context in the Caribbean, funds are, things are expensive. We have to ensure that we rebuild with quality material, etc. And we also provide quality care in terms of psychosocial support to those who will receive it. And so this is a significant amount. So the church is doing quite a lot, but there is room for more. I want to encourage brothers and sisters to contribute to the Diocese of St. George's to be able to help more persons, because with limited funds, you can only help so many. So you are welcome to contribute to the diocese in its quest to support the poorest of the poor, the preferential option for the poor as well. I want to encourage all Catholic communities and all people of goodwill to be in solidarity with our brothers and sisters who are suffering as a result of Hurricane Beryl. They need us. They need you. They need me. We are the face of the church on this earth. We are Jesus's or God's hands and feet and eyes and ears. And so I call on you in solidarity to support those who need it most at this time and beyond, and to help them to rebuild their livelihoods and their communities. At the end of the day, it will be to our benefit that our brothers and sisters can actually meet their basic needs, and especially the children, those most vulnerable, persons with disability,
Yes.
we need to think about them. And school resumes very quickly, so we want to ensure that our children don't miss out too much on their education. So I just want to appeal to all persons of goodwill, especially the Catholic communities in Grenada and all those listening, to contribute, to support, to give of your time, your talent, and your treasure, all necessary to help our brothers and sisters who have been impacted by Hurricane Beryl.
Yes. I guess we will post there's a link that will be posted, and you can call 435-0143 to find out how you can make your contribution, and certainly we will provide the information. So, wow, this has been really, really fantastic. And I'm so proud of the church. You know, it's so important for us to dispose ourselves to what is actually happening, to understand the church and its role and its mission and vision, and how it is everywhere, the face of the church. That's you and me. So let us do our part. Those who are doing their part, let us encourage and let us do all we can to support this process and to be of assistance to our brothers and sisters. I'd like to thank you, Mrs. Marcia Hayward. It's been really a great pleasure and a privilege for me to be able to speak with you. And I do admire the passion with which you speak. And, you know, it's like you found your niche and you're able to really speak to the situation effortlessly. And I believe really and truly the late Archbishop Kevin Felix was right on point. As Our Lady showed him, you're the person to be able to lead this charge of Caritas Antilles. So thank you so much. All the very best to you and all the persons who work in collaboration with you, and continue to do the wonderful work that you are doing, because it certainly will bear fruit and you will be rewarded for all the good that you do. So I've been your host, Ruthina Victor. We thank you so much for being part of this very special program. And please pass the information on. Enlighten persons who do not know, who are very ignorant as to what the church is doing. And you have a responsibility to enlighten them, because you have been enlightened. So thank you so much. May God bless you. And we will end with our very special song that we started with, We Are Called to Serve. Thank you so much, Mrs. Hayward. Yes.
We are made for service, to care for each other. We are made to love each sister and brother with love that will live through sorrow and pain, a love that will never die with strain. God sent His Son to show us the way, one who shared His love every minute of the day, one who gave His life that we might live, and His Spirit to help us.